A 40-year-old log cabin set on 480 acres. No upgrades, no luxury, nothing modern. Just horses, pine trees, and mountain peaks. But this is where Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn chose to stay, even after building nearly $190 million in wealthy. They could have left at any time, but didn't. So what kept them there, when everything else said they should move on? Let's take a closer look at this log cabin, because you'll realize it's connected to something far more unexpected, even Princess Diana. But before we step inside that cabin, we need to go back and understand why wealth and power aren't everything to them. Kurt Russell was already locked into Hollywood before he even understood what it meant. By age 10, he was under a Disney contract, working steadily while most kids were still in school. The studio controlled his image, his roles, and his future, and for years, he followed it. But acting was never his real plan. In the early 1970s, Russell walked away from that system and pursued professional baseball instead. He played in the minor leagues and was considered a legitimate prospect. Then everything ended in a single moment, a shoulder injury that permanently shut down his baseball career. He was forced back into Hollywood, but this time, he refused to be controlled. Instead of continuing safe, family-friendly roles, Russell shifted into darker, high-risk films. Escape from New York, 1981, The Thing, 1982, and later Tombstone, 1993, turned him into a bankable lead for studios handling uncertain projects. That strategy paid off. Over decades, Kurt Russell built an estimated $100 million net worth, driven by consistent roles, long-term deals, and financial discipline. Goldie Hawn's rise was just as calculated, but far more deceptive. She became famous as the dumb blonde on Laugh-In, a role that made her instantly recognizable but also easy to dismiss. Then she broke that image completely. Her performance in Cactus Flower, 1969, won an Academy Award and forced the industry to take her seriously almost overnight. From that point forward, she didn't just act. She controlled projects. Her film Private Benjamin, 1980, became a major box office success, and as a producer, she secured a direct share of its profits. Over time, she built an estimated $90 million net worth, not from volume, but from ownership and selective roles. Together, Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn built a combined fortune of around $190 million, the kind of wealth that usually anchors people deeper into Hollywood, not away from it. But as their careers stabilized and their financial position became secure, their focus began to shift. Instead of expanding their presence in the industry, they started investing in something quieter, more permanent, a life built outside of it, a private life in Colorado. And to understand how that life became possible, you have to go back to where their story actually began. A 40-year love without marriage. Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn first met in 1967 on the set of the one and only genuine original family band. At the time, he was still a teenager under contract with Disney, just beginning his career. She was already an established actress, working to move beyond early typecasting and take control of her image. Kurt would recall that moment with surprising honesty in an interview with Conan. "I was severely hungover. I didn't know Goldie at all outside of having worked with her years before. I didn't know what I was going to see. And the first thing that came out of my mouth was, 'Man, you got a great figure.'" It wasn't polished. It wasn't calculated. But it was real. And that's what stayed in his mind. After that first meeting, their lives moved in completely different directions. The age difference, timing, and the demands of their careers kept them apart, and they didn't stay in contact. For the next 15 years, their lives unfolded separately, but in parallel. Goldie married Bill Hudson and had 2 children, Oliver and Kate, before their divorce in the early 1980s. Kurt married actress Susan Hubley and had a son, Boston. That marriage also came to an end. By the time they crossed paths again in 1983, both of them were no longer starting from scratch. They had careers, children, and failed marriages behind them. Nothing about their lives was simple anymore, and that's exactly when everything changed. They reconnected during the audition process for Swing Shift. This time, the dynamic was different. They were older, both in their 30s and 40s, both with children, and both coming out of failed marriages. Their relationship started quickly, but not blindly. Kurt later recalled the moment he saw her again in a 2017 interview with Conan. "I said, man, you got a great figure. It came out wrong. But that's what I said. From the beginning, they made a decision that removed one of the biggest expectations in Hollywood. They would not get married. Goldie addressed it clearly years later in a 2023 interview with CNN. "We like the choice of waking up every morning and choosing to be together." She reinforced the same idea in an earlier interview with People magazine. "A lasting relationship isn't about marriage. It's about compatibility and communication." There was no legal contract holding them together, no financial system forcing them to stay, and no public narrative they had to maintain. If the relationship continued, it would be based on daily decisions rather than long-term obligation. At the same time, their personal lives became immediately intertwined. Kurt stepped into a household with 2 children, while maintaining his role as a father to Boston. Instead of separating families, they merged them. By 1986, they had their son Wyatt Russell, creating a 4-child blended family. They raised their children together and built a family structure outside the typical Hollywood model. Over time, Kurt became a central father figure, especially to Kate Hudson. She later said on The Howard Stern Show, 2016, "My dad stepped up. Kurt Russell showed up for me in a way that a father does." As they grew up, each of the children followed their own path. Kate Hudson became a successful actress and businesswoman, Oliver Hudson built a steady TV career, and Wyatt Russell transitioned from professional hockey into acting after injuries ended his sports career. Kurt's eldest son, Boston, chose a more private life, staying largely out of the spotlight while remaining close to the family. Despite their different careers, the connection between them remained consistent. The family continued to spend time together, particularly at the Colorado Ranch, where multiple generations now gather. The relationship was not built around constant collaboration. They worked together occasionally, including Swing Shift and Overboard, 1987, but they did not rely on shared projects to sustain their connection. Their careers remained independent, which reduced professional tension and financial dependency. They also controlled exposure. They appeared together selectively, avoided unnecessary publicity, and kept most of their relationship outside the entertainment cycle. Goldie acknowledged this approach in People magazine. "We've been together 40 years. We've chosen to be together every day." That decision removed a major source of pressure. The focus stayed inside the household. Their daily life revolved around routines, raising children, managing homes, and maintaining stability across multiple properties. By 2026, they had been together for over 4 decades. That shift becomes visible in the next part of their story, because instead of building larger public lives, they centered everything around one place, a log cabin in Colorado that they moved into more than 40 years ago and never replaced. A Colorado ranch built for privacy and control. Kurt Russell moved to Colorado when he was just 26 years old, at a time when his career in Hollywood was still accelerating. It was not a temporary decision or a seasonal escape. In a 2026 interview with Men's Health, he stated it clearly. "I moved to Colorado to live the life I wanted to live." That decision became permanent. More than 4 decades later, the property in Old Snowmass remains the central place in his life with Goldie Hawn. In a 2026 interview with the Wall Street Journal, Russell described it without exaggeration. "Our Old Snowmass home is my favorite. It's a large, beautiful log cabin lodge on a ranch that we moved into a little over 40 years ago. This isn't a secondary residence or a recent acquisition. It's a home they've lived in consistently for over 40 years. far longer than most celebrity properties stay within the same hands. According to a 2016 Denver Post report, the couple owns around 70 acres across adjoining parcels in Aspen and Snowmass, including a 6,500 square foot main residence and a 2,700 square foot guest house, giving them a level of privacy that's difficult to replicate. The structure itself follows traditional log construction, with thick timber walls, exposed beams, and a layout designed for long-term use. It doesn't rely on modern luxury trends or visual statements. Instead, the focus is on function, insulation, and stability in a high-altitude environment. And that setting directly shapes how they live. The ranch sits in old Snowmass, surrounded by open land and mountain views, and Russell's daily routine begins with that landscape. As he put it, "I like to wake up in bed each morning looking at the mountains out back." From there, the structure of his day remains physical and grounded in routine. "I like to head down to the barn, saddle up a horse and ride," Russell said. And this isn't occasional recreation, it's something he has done for decades. Russell has long been known for his connection to horses, both on and off screen. Throughout his career, especially in Western films like Tombstone, he developed real riding skills and spent extended time working with horses. That familiarity carried into his personal life, where riding became part of his daily rhythm rather than a hobby. At the ranch, the setup supports that lifestyle. There is a working barn, open riding space, and enough land to move freely without restriction. Riding isn't scheduled or structured. It's integrated into how he starts his day, often alone, using the quiet of the property rather than external activities. The environment allows for a routine built on movement, repetition, and independence. A daily structure that doesn't rely on production schedules, public appearances, or city life. Inside the home, the atmosphere shifts even further toward simplicity and routine. Russell has described spending time zoning out in front of the living room fireplace. But that space reflects a broader pattern in how the house is used. The interior isn't arranged around formal living or visual impact. It's built for use. Large, open areas with durable materials, heavy wood surfaces, and furniture designed for comfort rather than presentation. The kitchen functions as a central space, not for entertaining guests, but for daily meals and family gatherings that follow a consistent rhythm. There's also a practical side to the layout. Storage, utility areas, and access points are designed to support life on a working property. Boots, gear, and outdoor equipment move in and out of the house without disrupting it. The transition between outside and inside is seamless, reflecting a home that operates as part of the land, not separate from it. Goldie Hawn's lifestyle aligns with the same structure. Although she continues to work selectively, her time in Colorado is centered on family routines and personal time rather than public activity. The property supports that by offering separation from Los Angeles while still maintaining access to their other homes. The couple divides time between Colorado, Los Angeles, Palm Desert, and New York. But the Snowmass Ranch remains the most consistent location in their schedule. Russell explained the reason behind that consistency. "Goldie and I share a passion for log homes. I never got that out of my system, starting with the one in Maine. That early connection to log cabins, dating back to the one his grandparents built in 1939, is directly reflected in the choice to maintain this property long-term. Despite an estimated combined net worth of around $190 million, they did not replace the ranch with a newer or more visible estate. There has been no transition toward trend-driven architecture or high-profile real estate expansion. The property has never shifted in purpose. It continues to function as a primary residence, a working space, and a long-term base for their family. Their children and grandchildren return to the same environment Kurt Russell chose decades ago, using it not as a retreat, but as a consistent part of their lives. That level of stability also reflects something less visible, the degree of privacy the ranch provides. It is not just a quiet location. It is a place that has proven capable of shielding even the most recognizable figures in the world. Russell revealed this in a 2016 appearance on The Late Late Show with James Corden. The connection began years earlier at the royal premiere of Backdraft in London, where he was seated between Princess Diana and Prince Charles. During the event, Diana spoke openly about the pressure of constant paparazzi attention. Russell responded by mentioning his Colorado ranch, describing it as a place where she could spend time without being followed or photographed. That conversation turned into action. Russell explained, "Years later, Diana wanted to go with the boys, and so they were welcome and they came and stayed for 10 days at the ranch. They had a great time." The visit was never made public at the time, which only strengthened the ranch's reputation as a place of real privacy. Even someone as closely followed as Princess Diana was able to stay there quietly, without attention. Russell later shared that the experience left a lasting impression, especially on those around them. Their housekeeper, Bonnie, formed a genuine connection with Diana, and long after the visit ended, it continued in small, personal ways. As Russell recalled, every Christmas she'd get a nice Christmas card from Diana. That kind of moment says more about the place than any description ever could. And decades later, nothing about that role has changed. After more than 40 years, the log cabin remains active, lived in, and central to their daily life. It hasn't been replaced, redesigned, or turned into something else. And that level of consistency is rare, especially at this level of wealth. Russell and Goldie Hawn didn't just build a $190 million fortune. They built a life that never required constant upgrading to feel complete. So when everything is within reach, what do you actually choose to keep? The spotlight, or something like this? Let us know in the comments. And if this story gave you a different perspective, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay with us for more stories that go beyond what you usually see. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.